What's up, class? Back with another no mod shop class video.
I apologize for the delay again, but I'm still working through serious equipment problems. But as I did in the last video, I may have found a temporary solution.
As long as you guys are cool with a little fluctuation in my mic levels here and there, then we should be good to go. I used to be such an audio perfectionist, but honestly, I'd rather record a couple of working minutes at a time than have to start completely over from scratch each time my equipment crashes. I think what it's going to take to solve it is all new equipment, top to bottom. New mic, new amp, even a new computer. Admittedly, my computer is a little old, so it could just be that, but it's hard to tell. No one told me YouTube would be such an expensive hobby when I started the channel. Unfortunately, with the way inflation is rising, the economy is in flux, I'm going to have to make do with what I have for a while longer. Most people that watch on phones or laptops won't even notice the difference. It's only the people watching on TVs or with headphones that might get distracted a little bit, but I'd rather get more videos out per month than not. The craziest part is that my list of things to cover is still a mile long, so there's no shortage of content. And speaking of content, one of the things I always do is collect small tips and tricks over the months and years that don't merit their own videos, but will make a great part of a miscellaneous tips video. And I finally collected another 15. Well, more than that, but I narrowed it down to the best 15. So today's video is going to be the fourth installment of my miscellaneous tips mini-series. Got some really good ones for you too. As with prior videos, some of the tips I discovered myself, but many of the tips come from viewers who left comments or emailed me directly. Sometimes several viewers let me know about the same tip. So they're all credited for their suggestions down in the description below. However, I gotta give special credit to a viewer named Dutch. He contributed at least a quarter of the tips in this video, and one of them even merits its own video, which I'll cover in more detail next time. But I wanted to give you like a teaser to it in this video. So a special thanks to Dutch and everyone else who let me in on the neat discoveries you've made along the way. It benefits us all in the community when we share knowledge. But before we get to all that, let's take a quick peek at this month's Wall of Fame. As you know, I feature the names of my amazing Patreon supporters each month on this here Wall of Fame. And here is the Student Council this month. Thank you guys so much for your generosity and support for the channel. I'll leave a link in the description below and the iCard above if anyone else wants to become a member of the Student Council. There are some fantastic perks in addition to seeing your name on the Wall of Fame. And if you don't want to leave YouTube and take the time to set up a Patreon account, there's also a join button down below where you can become a member, or a Bitcoin address down in the description if you're one of the cool kids and you want to make a one-time donation. But it would be so awesome to get some folks on board with Student Council so I can keep bringing you guys awesome build videos and not have to rely on YouTube's, meager ad revenue. And you've probably noticed that I don't advertise my videos, so you don't have to deal with skipping past that minute-long sponsor segments like other YouTubers. That's what my Patreon supporters are for.
Okay, you guys ready to dive into tip number one? Let's do this. Tip number one has to do with the Wi-Fi glitch. As you know, if you've messed around with the Wi-Fi glitch, sometimes it's hard to tell if it worked or if you have to start over. An easy solution to that is to attach a light to a surface nearby that isn't powered by any other conduit or power source. If your conduit or switch got successfully powered wirelessly, then you should be able to place it near the dark light and it'll instantly turn on. This way, you don't have to run halfway across your settlement from your generator, find out it doesn't work, and then run all the way back. So what I'm going to do is create a Wi-Fi conduit real quick using the shortcut method I featured in part 2 of this series. Now I'm going to add one of those green lights so you can see this area is not currently powered. Okay, now as you can see it's off, but if I bring the wireless conduit near it, it should light up if I did it correctly. Perfection! First tip is always the quickest and easiest. Moving on. The next tip involves croup manner. As you can see up there, I repaired the floor and ceiling in a previous video by adding that sunroom. Sorry, I just noticed my HUD display is off. I'll remember to turn it on for the next tip. But there are still all these ghouls that litter the place. The worst of which, of course, is that super annoying ghoul that's stuck between floors. Now, I'm sure you can get rid of him with mods, but you can't without. And since this is a no mods channel, I set out to find a way to get rid of him once and for all. Lo and behold, I actually figured out a way to dislodge him. Now, I don't know if this tip has been shown on other channels or not. I did a search and couldn't find anything, so I might be the first. But either way, this is how I did it. I went into workshop and then went to the concrete section. I used this half wall here since it would both fit and cover his body once I popped it into place. You can actually place it so the ghoul's body is fully inside the concrete. I'll just make some quick adjustments here, so I might be able to do this on the first or second try. Notice how it rattled him a little? Now each time you select it, it dislodges him a little. Gravity eventually does most of the work, and he simply drops down. How cool is that? Okay, let me store this thing and then exit workshop. Now you can just hold the button to grab him and then drag him out to sea. I don't know if he'll respawn or not, but when I saved and reloaded, he was gone from both the ceiling and from the shoreline. Then I rested for about a week and he still hasn't respawned. Maybe it takes longer and he might eventually respawn, but maybe not. If he does, I'll just have to drag him to a new cell loading zone like I did in my Getting Rid of Corpses video, and I might finally be able to clean up Croup Manor after all. Tip number 3 is another very simple but practical tip. When you're using the pillar glitch, sometimes you may need to lift something really high. As you've seen in some of my previous videos, I like to use the tall, thin scaffolding piece for the job, this one here. But what happens if you need to lift something even higher? Many people start adding posts attached by the pipe conduits to get that extra vertical reach. That certainly works, but there's an easier way. These tall, thin scaffolding pieces can actually stack. Start off with one sunken into the ground, and then you can add another one on top, or as many as you need for the desired height. Just be sure to group select with the bottom one so you can lift the whole thing up. And remember that pillar glitched objects tend to stay in midair, so you can just lift your desired object up in increments and pull the scaffolding away until you have the height you need. I'll show you an example and just pick a random object that we can lift way up. I'm thinking something in furniture maybe. Okay, this metal nightstand should work fine. Okay, we'll lift the nightstand up to here first, then I can lower it back down and add another scaffolding piece on top of it. The only challenge with this method is that you can't both look down at the bottom piece to group select and look up at the object you want to lift. You'll just have to eyeball it. As you can see, I was able to go up another 10 feet or so. Now we can just add a third scaffolding piece to the mix and go up another 10 feet or so. There we go, it just takes a little guesstimation, but it works perfectly as you can see. If you need to go up any higher than that, it might be a good idea to use the prefab scaffolding rigs with the stairs. Then you can climb up and place the thin scaffolding tower on something solid. Anyway, another tip in the can. For tip number 4, still here at Croup Manor, just because I'm filming some of these back to back. But it's good that it's getting dark because I'm going to show you how to create a shadow box effect using the lit posters from the decoration section. It involves the concrete walls, so I'm going to go into the concrete section and grab one of these windowed walls with bars. Then on the edge, I'm going to add a single pillar and another one right next to it. On the other side, I'm going to do the same thing. This is mainly so we can get a solid concrete wall to snap into place right behind it. Once you snap the solid wall into place behind it, then you can get rid of these pillars and continue the wall on each side as you see fit. But before you snap in a solid wall piece, you're going to add 3 of those posters with the gooseneck lamp attached. They're past the ones with the conduits in the wall decoration section. The only challenge is lining them up right next to each other at just the right height. Your choice with the poster selection, but this is the configuration you want to use. It doesn't take any pillar glitching, just a little bit of finagling. So I'm going to go ahead and pop that into place. That doesn't look like it's lined up right. It's probably easier done from the back. There we go. Now it looks aligned. And as you can see, I went ahead and added a conduit to the back. Now I can just grab a temporary generator so you see how cool it looks. Just gonna hook up that wire and voila. Neat little trick, huh? Looks like it should be in an art gallery. And if you use the window walls without the bars, you can probably use regular paintings and then backlight them. That might be pretty cool too. Tip number 5. A viewer suggested one way to get over the frustration of having things fall through your display shelves is to try superimposing more than one. This is the shelf I assume he was talking about, since he left a comment on one of my unique items videos where I had all the items on this shelf in my build. And since you can't actually stack them directly, as you can see, he probably meant using the pillar glitch. Although I think it's actually going to take the rug pillar combo to make this work, so they're all lined up nicely. He said he usually stacks 5 of them, and he's never had anything fall through with that many. I'll just show you how to do one here so you can see how it's done. There you go. But it did seem like a waste of resources to me, so I actually found an easier way to do his tip. You start off with one of the big shelves, and then you can actually stack these smaller shelves on top of each other directly from the menu. You can usually get 2 in per normal row, but they're pretty invisible when stacked. Honestly, it's probably about the same amount of resources spent, but it's so much easier. It's sort of the same principle I showed as one of the tips in my very first miscellaneous tips video with inserting the rubber mats into tables, and it has to do with the loading of the underlying wire mesh. Smaller objects load first in the game, so the tiny items will usually fall through the bigger items. Unfortunately, Bethesda didn't even fix that load order problem in Starfield, and the same thing was happening with my ship decorations. So I do hope they fix that oversight in their next game. Tip number 6, you can ruin the pathing for NPCs on purpose by using the trapdoor flooring. This is something you'd need to plan in advance though, so I'll show you how to set it up. I'll start with some stairs just to get a little elevation. Then I'll pop in some warehouse flooring because you can sink pillars into the warehouse floors. And then the trapdoors are found in the defense and trap sections. So it turns out that the entire trapdoor floor breaks the pathing, not just the trap itself. That means you can cover the trapdoors with rugs or objects so you don't step on them yourself. You just have to pillar glitch something over it. As an example, I'll just cover the trapdoor with another small piece of wood flooring. Then add a conduit to give us some distance to the part we can sink a pillar into. It's getting ugly out. Just gotta go fire off a clear weather shell real quick. There we go. Now back to business. Okay, once you have the setup, just group select it and head up to where you can sink it into the warehouse flooring. It doesn't matter too much, but there's a way to get it perfectly superimposed. Let's see if I can get it just right. Not bad, but not perfect. I'll pop up the footage from my test so you can see what I mean. As you can see, no more trapdoor, and it almost blends in perfectly. And NPCs won't cross this flooring, so why would you want to break NPC pathing on purpose? Maybe you have a private quarters that you don't want settlers trampling through, or maybe a secret treasure room. Just remember that interactable objects can still cause them to spawn there. So don't be surprised if you still find a settler sleeping in your bed if you haven't purposely assigned them to their own. Tip number 7 is the opposite of tip number 6. If you want to get settlers to spawn in hard-to-reach locations such as up in airships or down in underground bunkers, there are a few easy tools to use. I'm here at my Somerville Place settlement, and as you can see, up there is my UFO build. If you want to check out the full tour, links for that down in the description and the iCard above. Settlers, and even I, can't reach it without fast traveling, so I'll fast travel up to the mat I placed down in the spaceship. Okay, now that we're inside, how would we get settlers to spawn up here if we wanted? Well, the bell that calls settlers found in the miscellaneous section of resources will help settlers find their way to any area where the bell is placed. That includes impossible to reach locations such as up here. So let me set one up and I'll show you. Ring my bell! I thought about singing that song, but nah, you don't want none of that. Okay, if the location is literally impossible to reach by normal means, you may need to sit down and wait for an hour. But they will show up. And there we go. I only have 2 settlers at this location so far, but more would have shown up if I had more.
Maybe you can help. Our generator's busted. We don't have the parts.
The alternative is that any interactive settlements objects will also end up spawning settlers there over time.
I don't have time for this. Okay.
Things like the slot machines, the weight bench, the pommel horse, the drink machine, and other objects that settlers can interact with will cause them to appear and interact with it even if their pathing wouldn't have normally let them. That's also why you want to be careful putting these objects in your private quarters where you don't want settlers to go. But anyway, that is how it's done. For tip number 8, we're back to the Wi-Fi glitch real quick. Since its discovery, a lot of people have written me over the years and said it doesn't work with logic gates. They're not wrong. Something about the nodes on the logic gates messes with the Wi-Fi glitch. However, there is a very simple workaround. All you need to do is just add a tiny horizontal conduit above each of the nodes and Wi-Fi glitch those instead. Probably the easier way to do it is to Wi-Fi glitch the tiny vault conduits first, then place them above each node and wire them manually to the nodes below them. Then you effectively have a Wi-Fi glitched logic gate. That's one of the things I like about the building system in Fallout 4. Problem solving through creativity. Tip number 9. Have you ever been in a situation where you've already arranged the furniture in a room and you decide a rug should be underneath it all? Perhaps you want to rug glitch something, but there isn't room for the rug itself in the arranged space? Well, there's an unbelievably easy solution that I can't believe I didn't think of eons ago. You can place something you want to rug glitch right on top of the rug and then simply select the rug from underneath. It may take some finagling to get it, so where you're only selecting the tiny rug, but once you do, you can stand over the object again and glitch it in place as usual. And as you can see, it works like a charm. It'll work with any object that can be rug glitched, not just larger rugs, of course. And the bonus is that you don't even have to have the selected rug sticking out when you don't want the object to sink. Which leads right into tip number 10, a fascinating property about the pillar glitch as it relates to rugs. Perhaps something none of us realized about the rug-pillar combo. When an object is placed on a rug, a pillar used to group select the objects will almost always prioritize the rug as the selected object. So check this out. The counter is placed on top of the rug. Then we get out a pillar and group select. As you can see from underneath and when it's placed on the floor, that the only object the pillar has selected is the rug. Once you know that concept, that opens up a ton of interesting possibilities. The most obvious of those possibilities is using the rug-pillar combo to hide unsightly rugs under objects you want to superimpose, like joining 2 counters together. See, no rugs to be found because they're hidden underneath, but certainly more creative ideas are possible. Tip number 11. Sometimes you may need to recall a provisioner at a settlement in order to reassign them elsewhere. Perhaps you just want to clean up crisscrossing routes and make the supply lines more organized. Maybe you just want to find them so you can give them better armor and weapons. But how do you find the provisioner on their route in order to reassign them? I suppose one way is to just wait for them to show up. Maybe another way is to travel the route and hunt them down. But there's a much easier way. The Vault-Tec Population Management System. This bad boy came with the Vault-Tec DLC and has a ton of uses like managing switches and spotlights, tracking companions, assigning and reassigning duties, etc. You can manage quite a bit of your settlement from one place with this thing. I'm definitely going to be setting up one of these at my Far Harbor hotel once I establish the power station warehouse. I'll probably have another one in the upper security office. Anyway, you can also manage provisioners from the vocational overview screen. I don't happen to have any provisioners that originated from this settlement. That's why you don't see the option coming up. I think have them all fanning out from Sanctuary and Kingsport Lighthouse. But anyway, you get the idea. The only thing missing is the ability to assign beds so you never have settlers sleeping in your overseer's bed. But oh well, nothing is perfect, right? Tip number 12. Dutch discovered something fascinating you can do with junk items. You can actually connect junk items if their shape allows it, and they will stay that way. As you can see in Dutch's video, he uses life preservers. He's taken it to the extreme and created a life preserver rope swing of sorts. I'll skip ahead to where he shows how it's done. In some cases, you may need to place the object on another object to lift it into place. The giant ice cream cone is a clever choice for lifting objects because the junk items can lay flat while still having room underneath to attach because of the curve. They can also sink, so they act like pillars for group selecting. There aren't many objects in the game that have hooks or holes in them, but I'm sure the community might be able to think of even more creative ideas with this tip. Tip number 13. You can actually create 3D objects using the neon letters. As you can see in this viewer-submitted footage, he's created a sort of globe shape using the letter O. Seriously clever stuff. I have to admit that I never thought of doing that. Okay, I'll skip ahead now to where he shows how it's done. He has some more samples on the side there to show off. But to do this, first you have to set up 2 perpendicular concrete walls, like so. It's important that there's a gap in the middle there, as that's where the neon letter will stick out. Now you can do this trick with other letter combinations to make other symbols, but we're just looking here to create that globe effect. And this whole trick hinges literally on the fact that the letters snap to each other even when there's no support behind them. As you can see, the letter O just hangs out in midair, having snapped to the one next to it. The other reason this works is that you can store the letters next to the one you want to keep, and it won't store them all. And by having them reach out and meet, you end up creating a 3D object at the juncture point. It may be possible to do all this with pillar glitching, but that would be a pain in the butt. So anyway, if you store the letter right before the one you want to keep, it won't delete that one. And then in the middle, you use a 0 instead of the letter O to complete the effect. Then at that point, you will need to pillar glitch it to where you want it to stay, and that's it. As we get near the end, the tips are going to start getting even crazier. And tip number 14 is exactly that. It was first discovered by Dutch, who named it the ghost clipping glitch. Eric and I experimented a little with this discovery. He's the guy who built that cyberpunk city I featured in the last video. And he himself made some interesting new discoveries, which I'll feature in a future video. As proof, he's just showing here how no mods are installed, because this is basically like the Place Anywhere mod, but with no mods. This is exactly what us builders have been waiting for, and it's just amazing that it was discovered almost 10 years after the game came out. Like I said, I'll cover this in more detail in a future video, but here are the basics. In settlements that are large enough to cover at least 2 cell draw zones, you can carry a group-selected object all the way across the settlement. When you cross over into the next cell draw zone, the group-selected items will go transparent, giving it a ghostly effect, thus the name. At that point, all collision is gone, and you can basically place anywhere. As you can see, he's going to build a 60-second treehouse here in Sanctuary. As long as the original focused item you group selected can be placed, the rest will act more like the rug glitch than the pillar glitch. Just friggin' amazing, right? Currently, we believe this can only be done in large acreage settlements. Examples include Sanctuary, Spectacle Island, the Nuka World Red Rocket, and Longfellow's Cabin. I haven't tested it in Vault 88 yet, or Starlight, but it may be possible there too. You guys can always let us know as you experiment with this. Tip number 15 is a follow-up to tip 14. It's a quirk that Eric discovered about the ghost clipping glitch. It's pretty wild, but as you can see first, no mods installed. It starts off operating like the regular ghost clipping glitch. You just group select the items you want to place anywhere. In this case, he's just showing a typical pillar conduit combo. Then you do the thing where you carry the group selected items into a new cell draw zone so they eventually go transparent on you. Once that happens, you can do something unexpected as an alternate to the regular glitch. You first just place the item where you want. When you set it, it will disappear on you. But watch what happens now when you save your game and reload. The item is now back and can be picked up and placed in other objects with no collision. Crazy, right? Now you may need to do one more save and reload to lock it in, so to speak. That is just so cool. I hope everyone lets us know about all the things you discover you can do with this technique. I'd love to hear it all before I make a dedicated video on this tip.
Alright class, that wraps up 15 more miscellaneous tips to make your settlement building easier and more interesting in Fallout 4. I really appreciate you guys tuning in and watching these videos and sharing them around. Be sure to throw a like on the video if it helped, and sub for more awesome settlement tips like this. And thanks again to the viewers who contributed tips to this video. Continue to email me great suggestions to include in future videos. I always give credit where credit is due. See you in the next video. Happy building, and class dismissed.